Und sein Gegner ist die aktuelle Nummer 10 der Welt. Er ist ehemaliger WM-Finalist sowohl bei BDO als auch bei PDC. 2013 und 2014 stand er zweimal im Finale bei diesem Turnier. Er ist der European Darts Champion von 2012 aus Australien. The Wizard Simon Whitlock.
You come from a land down under, where women go and men wonder. Can't you hear the thunder? You better run, you better take cover. Buying bread from a man in Brussels. He was 6'4" and full of muscle. I said, do you speak my language? He just smiled and gave me a Vegemite sandwich. And he said, I come from a land down under.
Welcome back to the action here at the European Darts Open. Messrs Van Gerwen, Cross and Suljovic safely through back to back after wins earlier in the evening for Joe Cullen, Jermaine Watermena, and a particularly impressive one for Dimitri van den Berg against the number 6 seed Adrian Lewis. Now it's time for a former winner on the Euro Tour, a former European champion in Simon Whitlock, taking on R.Smith, who has a bit of history on the Euro Tour himself. That happened in Gibraltar, a man who had a fantastic run in Gibraltar last year, and who had a fantastic run with Simon Whitlock at the World Cup of Darts not so long ago as well. Is Paul Nicholson, and he joins me to talk you through this one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one because there's a bit of complexity with it. I think R.Smith can feel very confident going into this game based on current form, and maybe the pressure is on Captain Whitlock.
First leg, it's Simon to throw first. Game on.
At that point again in his career where that seeding is starting to drop, and I know I've mentioned it a couple of times already today, but it's very important because if he drops out of that top 16 and he has to go back to qualifiers, it's very, very difficult for him to get back. We've seen it with other players like Wadey, who had to really grind to get back into form, and now he's an established seed. But Whitlock has once before lost his seeding and come back. Now he's got to do that again if he loses this match or potentially doesn't play well over the next couple of months.
Well, I think the other example would be Adrian Lewis, who is as high as number 6 seed at the moment, having not been seeded in the early part of last year.
But the unbelievable thing, Chris, is that he's been in 2 European Tour finals in the last 12 months, and he's still got his seeding potentially going to be taken away from him. So the stuff in between has not been great. He would admit that. His Pro Tour form has not been perfect.
Well, when he did return to the seedings and return to the top 10 in the world as well, he had a run, didn't he, that sparked it all off, where he won, I think it was 5 events in about 6 months on the Pro Tour, and it's dried up since then in terms of wins for Whitlock. There aren't many who've won more than Simon in the PDC. And you know full well, Paul, what a good competitor Whitlock is, having played against him and with him.
Very true. You know, on 114, he always goes for 19s, for 17, for tops. 17. Line was good.
Had he hit the single, it would have been the reverse Shanghai.
Just a bit too much Vegemite on that sandwich. Tops. Oh, it's plum.
91.
He will be livid that he's missed that, because the gate was open and that would have been a brilliant shot from R.Smith. Whitlock has dodged a bullet.
Would have hurt the Wizard. When he has gone through bad spells, it has been because of that. Something that's interesting about Simon Whitlock's career curve, as Smith looks to hit the double Whitlock couldn't and does, is that he used to be the king of finishing, didn't he, Simon Whitlock? And what seems to have happened is that he sharpened up his scoring I think, up there with the most tightly grouped 1-8 hitters in the world, Simon Whitlock. Yet his finishing seems to have suffered.
Yeah, I think that's very accurate. There have been some times where he has shown us that he can still finish with the best of them. The best example of that was at the UK Open when he finished a brilliant match with a 1-4-3, which I believe is probably the hardest check out of the lot. But if we were to do a statistical analysis of the frequency of 160 plus checkouts, or 150 plus checkouts for instance, at the start of his career in the PDC, back around 2009, 2010, to the last few years, I think there'll be an alarming amount hit in the first few years and not since.
96.
Could well be right. Whitlock is not
37.
anywhere near R.Smith in this leg so far, and he's going to have a chance to pull two clear. Not had the best start to the year, Simon Whitlock. Hasn't made much progress in the floor events.
100.
I mean, there was a little bit of sympathy, widespread sympathy in the darting world that Whitlock wasn't included in the Premier League after Anderson withdrew, and I just wonder how much that's affected Simon. Whitlock's poised on tops, but Smith again finds double 10 to double his lead.
And Simon was having a bit of a chat with you, wasn't he? Just before he went on stage, he was talking about his points.
Yeah, he often does make these little changes. It's rarely noticed because Simon Whitlock will not really change the dart. He did make a big change to his darts about 3 years ago. That dimple in the middle of the barrels that he's used ever since then. You can see that very, very clearly from that shot. But it's the little changes he makes with the stems and the flights, different colours, different number of rings sometimes just to change something on the stem. But he's actually playing with points 3 millimetres longer than the ones that he's been using for the rest of the season. He does play in local events midweek, loves them as much as he loves playing in the World Championship and Premier League. For Simon, he loves playing darts, but he said he played well with them this week, so he's brought them with him to Leverkusen.
Well, ordinarily with Simon, whatever works during the week at local stuff tends to work later in the week. And I have to say that those darts are going in with some authority. And that's what he had a problem with before he went to the hex points.
Well, yeah, he wanted a long point so he could leave more room in the treble bed when he hit it. But what was also happening was that the darts were starting to dangle out of the board a little bit because not much of that long point was going in it.
It was all about a 1-4-6. That was his famous shot against Jamie Caven at the European Championships when he had that monstrous comeback.
Yeah, that was in 2013 when he made a brilliant defence attempt on that title. Ended by Adrian Lewis in the final. Smith now upstairs to downstairs.
84.
No, great lead from Simon. It's only double 16. Just to the right. And that is perfectly done. Been talking a couple of times this week already about that very dart that Simon threw, the first dart, which is just outside that double 16. Now, if it had hit the outside wire and blocked a lot of the top of the bed, it's still very possible to hit the double 16 by just nudging it to the right.
56.
And the camera angle that we get when the bed is blocked, it will actually show how much you can see people like Mervyn King and Rob Cross are so good at double 16 because they know how hittable that double 16 is, even though if you miss it on the left.
Just to give you a guide to Simon's form, he reached the quarterfinals at the Grand Slam last year and surrendered a lead against Gerwyn Price in that controversial quarterfinal, which was overshadowed by what followed as Price went on to take the title. But Whitlock seemed to struggle to recover from that because he lost his first match at the World Championship to Ryan Joyce, beaten in the first round at the Masters, and then had 4 consecutive first round defeats in the Pro Tour events that kicked off the year. Finally won a couple of games at Players Championship 6, and then signs of a return to life for the Wizard when he reached the last 16 at the UK Open.
Yeah, he played well on board 2. I was commentating there with Dan Dawson. He seems to be hitting the biggest scores when Ross has got the lead. Double 16 for Ross. Excellently converted. He's got a 3-1 lead, R.Smith. Dangerous opponent right now. We mentioned that UK Open. Of course, Ross made the quarterfinals, and that was his standout result so far. And there's the reason why he switched to those dots. They were so close together.
Yeah, well, he could have left them in, picked up another set, and carried on with a 9-dart attempt, couldn't he, Simon Whitlock?
We've got 2 guys here who are using modern points, and you can't see me doing the inverted commas there, because that treble 20 has been completely and utterly obliterated in the first 4 legs of this match. Look at it.
Well, do you know what else we've got 2 guys here that have done, Paul? 9-dart legs on the European Tour, and it's a quite exclusive club. We know that R.Smith hit 1 in Gibraltar in 2013 on the live stream as Whitlock looks to make it 2 180s and does in this leg. And Michael van Gerwen ended the 5-year drought in Germany last year. Do you want to have a go at naming the other 4 players that have done it? All in the opening year in 2012. I'll let you have the rest of this leg to think about it. But that might not be that long.
I was going to say, that's like giving me 5 seconds to get the conundrum on countdown.
Your old teammates helped you out there by
4 people.
Yeah, so we've got Van Gerwen and R.Smith.
And Whitlock.
And Whitlock, yeah, there was 4 more in the first year.
Right, we'll do it in the next leg. He has definitely blocked that double 16 and he has to move. What a dart from Whitlock to get within 1. That was an excellent leg from the skipper. So, 4 players to get, or 3 players to get, is it?
4.
Okay.
I know that people at home will be shouting at their screens, knowing the answers.
You've got the advantage of search engines and forums. I have basically been thrown to the jamming system here. Okay. Phil Taylor?
Incorrect.
This could go on for a while if I keep getting it wrong. 2012, did he say?
Yeah, they were all in 2012 before we started streaming these events.
It might have been one from Justin Pike back then. No? Raymond van Barneveld?
Still firing blanks here, Paul.
Oh boy, this is painful.
We'll have to start providing clues.
Go for it. Clue me up.
Well, one has got the same surname as one of the men on stage right now.
96.
Well, it's not a Whitlock. He's the only Whitlock. Smith. Either of the Andy variety or the Michael variety.
Yes, you were right with the second
93.
one.
Michael Smith, okay. Dave Chisnell?
Nope. One's not playing anymore. We'll return to that point at the end of this leg because Simon Whitlock has stolen a march and might tie it up at 3 apiece.
98.
Nice lead from R.Smith, just in case this 1-2-8 doesn't go. It might though.
He's not going for it, is he? He is.
What was the doubt about? Ross is on a 170. You cannot leave an opponent on a finish.
Well, it's one of those, isn't it? Having hit the 25, he'll wish that he hadn't.
Maybe he thought that dart was it dangled down a bit and he thought it might pop out.
25.
Which way is he going here? Double 8. It's a question that you can ask of Simon Whitlock for just about any finish, isn't it? Which way is he going to go? But he has managed to cancel out the cushion that Smith had opened up and has effectively taken back control of the tie.
Yeah.
The other names to put Paul Nicholson out of his misery were Ian White, Mark Webster.
Oh, Mark Webster hit us at Sindelfingen against Andre Velga. Yeah,
as did White.
It was a very
not against Velga, but in Sindelfingen.
Strange factory on that one in Sindelfingen. Mark Webster used a brand new set of darts that week. Won the first leg in 9 darts, and then got done by Velga and never used the darts ever again.
Oh, he wants to get them on eBay. Auction them off, Mark.
I wonder if he still got them.
And the other one was Colin Lloyd in Berlin.
Lloydie. Yeah, I remember that venue in Berlin, next to the Potsdamer Platz. It was quite the venue, because back then they used to have board 2, because the European Tour used to have 2 boards. It's all now main board. It used to be main board and then board 2. At Berlin, when it was first there, they had board 2 in the same room, which is very odd.
Well, actually, Michael Smith, who hit the first on the Euros here in 2012, hit his on board 2, which was disappointing for the hundreds of fans that were in the other room watching board 1. But Simon Whitlock treated them to a perfect leg the very next day. And he's done well here, Simon Whitlock, to turn this match around. His average is creeping up.
Yeah, he's played well, and I think he knows his game better than anybody. And I think the changing points is something that's helped him. They've got a bit of coating on them as well, a la Peter Wright.
62.
He's done enough there to lead tops.
160.
This would hurt.
Too often, Ross Smith has been languished on something like 170 or 160.
60.
So it says to me his scoring is just not there this evening. Or it hasn't been for the last few legs anyway, because now Captain Whitlock has got the lead.
Yeah, and he's looking quite comfortable. He's only a leg in front, but the demeanour on stage, Whitlock at times can look
96.
flustered, under pressure. Cast your mind back to the match I mentioned in the Grand Slam against Gerwyn Price, where he had a comfortable lead, but never looked comfortable in himself. They looked comfy in there, didn't they?
Well, you stick him on a stage, he's a completely different beast, in my opinion. Now, the 1-4-3 I mentioned earlier was against Gabriel Clemens, and we know how well Gabriel Clemens is playing at the minute. So you put him against a dangerous opponent, and I think he enjoys the challenge of potentially being a little bit of an underdog.
Well, he was the man that threatened to beat Michael van Gerwen at the European Championship a couple of years ago and missed a dart, a double 15 for 150 in a last leg decider. Premier League finalist, of course, World Championship finalist, Simon Whitlock.
Did you say to me earlier that you had an inkling that maybe the time will be right in the next few years for him to start looking at slowing down?
I think that's up to him, isn't it? I think it's something that seems to be a bit of a trend, but I would have Simon Whitlock as one of those players who wouldn't want to disappear by sliding down the world rankings, which is something that actually looked like it was happening just a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So, you know, never write him off because he's come back once already. And the players that were at the top at the same time as Simon were the likes of Andy Hamilton and Wes Newton, who completely fell off the tour.
Another game it'll be for Ross Smith. If he gets that, and he does.
Yeah, that was a well-crafted check-out, wasn't it? Because the way Whitlock had been playing for the last few minutes in the match, that 1-2-7 was not safe.
97.
Yeah, I can't imagine Simon sitting at home, you know, tending to the guinea pigs, because he has a guinea pig sanctuary in the back of his garden.
96.
And then watching PDC TV, I think you'd feel very uncomfortable about that if you can still fling a good dart. I can't see him not wanting to be a professional.
Well, let's not
for
forget,
a minimum of 5 years.
Let's not forget, it was only last year that he made a third European Championship final. kind of went under the radar because James Wade stole the headlines by winning back-to-back majors, but Whitlock was there again and seems to pop up somewhere, doesn't he? Once a year. It was a Grand Prix a couple of years ago when he was beaten by Darrell Gurney in a very close encounter.
140.
Well, we were talking earlier about Joe Cullen coming back to life because the European Tour's back. Well, who's to say that it isn't the same for Simon Whitlock? Because, let's face it, on the European Tour last year, as Ross Smith hits a key 180 to get himself back into leg 9. Leg 9, we've talked about the complexities of leg 9 already this evening. But who's to say that Whitlock is not going to be sparked back into life by the European Tour this year? Last year he was fantastic. 2 finals, and he got the final of the major one at the end.
Well, he might have to rely on Ross Smith missing here first, because he should get a dart at some kind of double. Getting the ball.
Gives on the 9 leg, Ross Smith.
And look what it meant to Ross Smith.
10 leg is Ross to throw first.
Well, we were just
Game.
predicting that perhaps Simon Whitlock might be starting to spark his season. Has Ross Smith just poured cold water on that?
I think that might just have hurt Whitlock a little bit. That was an excellent finish.
97.
And you mentioned the 1-2-7 earlier in the match. You can't leave someone on a shot like that. It's really, really doable. Now,
81.
I feel for Ross Smith's neck after that celebration. That was positively Mensah-esque with the headbutting that was going on. That definitely meant something. And I think Ross Smith in 2019 is looking to really jam things up a bit. He wants to start making statements and start making things like the match play.
100.
Well, the winner of this will take on the winner of the final match of the evening between Peter Snakebite Wright and Kim Huybrechts, and based on the celebration by Smith, it looks like it has done some damage to his neck.
he was just jerking it a little bit there,
Yeah.
trying to free it up a bit. I wouldn't be surprised if he tweaked it a little bit.
But having seen him animated in that kind of aggressive fashion, I think I'd quite like to see him go up against Kim Huybrechts, who's not shy on the stage.
When it comes to celebration offs, you can't get better than Gezi Price against Mensah Suljovic. They had a brilliant European Tour match a few years ago. I think it was maybe 18 months, 2 years ago, where they just went hammer and tongs at each other for 11 legs, and then they hugged at the end. It was an amazing game played in a superb spirit.
Well, listen, Kim and yourself gave them a good run for the money at a World Cup match where Whitlock and Ronnie Huybrechts had no idea what was going on. But what's going on here is that Ross Smith had got himself to match point, still has, but only if Simon Whitlock doesn't conjure up a big finish, the kind of which he used to produce yesteryear.
Bit of magic needed, and he needs a hope now that match starts will be missed. And that is bad news for Captain Whitlock, because it could well be him going out to Ross Smith. Double 8 is missed, and Whitlock has one more chance. This is enormous, because if he can ping this 47 and hold through and go through, it might well change his season.
Well, he's only going to get one dart at double. Simon survives by the skin of his teeth. One dart to stay in the match, and Simon Whitlock pins it.
Well, it's one of those situations, isn't it, Murph, where you have one dart to save your skin. Where do you want it? Whitlock knew he wanted one dart at double 18 after missing that single 15. He needed the get-out clause. He had one dart, and he hit it. That is fantastic guts.
The experience of the wizard showing there. He had a bit of a giggle to himself mid-visit there, Simon Whitlock. Not sure if that was nerves or it actually helped him calm himself down, but he'll be anything but calm, having heard the 180 call from our match official Kirk Bevins.
Well, judging by some of the exuberance of the vocal cords of Ross Smith in this match, he's going to need a Xanax to get himself to sleep tonight.
Well, Whitlock
lots of adrenaline.
Gave it a roar after that 140 as well. This is going to be
100.
an aggressive final leg.
Yeah, Whitlock had to go 18s there for the first start. Needs a big treble. Doesn't get it. R.Smith is in the driving seat. He's stolen the throw.
He's already missed a couple for the match. Is he going to get any more?
Big 60. Big 60. Tons become brilliant in that position. But Whitlock might up the ante.
We've seen scores of 180, 140 and 100 all celebrated live. And now it's Simon's turn to scream.
Well, R.Smith has laid it up to double 12. It's now up to Simon Whitlock to rob R.Smith of this match. He'll get one dart. It's at double 16. And he's missed it. That could be a season-changing shot for Simon Whitlock. And it could be a catapult for R.Smith. And that catapult will take him to Sunday.
Smith steps back and then steps forward and delivers double 12. And you can see what it means to him. Simon sees the funny side, but R.Smith edges out the wizard to book his place in the last 16 to reach the Sunday session. And the wizard will be departing the stage. Happy man Smith through to face the winner of this evening's final match. That's between Peter Wright and Kim Huybrechts, as Ross Smith sees off Simon Whitlock by 6 legs to 5.
Ross, wow. Congratulations. I mean, what a roller coaster ride that game was.
Yeah, just a little bit. Just a little bit, yeah. It was a bit up and down. Hard game, but yeah, well, I think you can tell I'm a bit happy, so yeah.
Ja, ich habe gesagt, das war eine ganz schöne Achterbahnfahrt der Gefühle für ihn. Sagt er, ja, ein ganz kleines bisschen nervenaufreibend war das schon. Er ist einfach sehr, sehr glücklich, durch die Partie durch zu sein. What do you think? What made you win this one? I mean, you missed two match starts, he missed one. I mean, is it just down to nerves in those situations?
Yeah, well, the closer it gets, obviously, the more intense it gets, and you know, even though the crowd were against me a bit, I think they wanted Simon, but they are absolutely fantastic in here. They really are.
Nochmal Lob von Ross Smith an euch. Er sagt, obwohl das Publikum natürlich wollte, dass Simon Whitlock weiterkommt, absoluter Favorit hier immer beim deutschen Publikum. Großes Kompliment an euch, sagte, die Stimmung war super. Er ist einfach froh, dass er über die Ziellinie gestolpert ist quasi. Wir sagen Gratulation und danke, Smudger Ross Smith!